Alright, hello and welcome. Showing you a replay from a tournament I am currently in. Uh, it's the MGL tournament group. I'll put a link to it in the description here. And if you watch Jay Martin's YouTube videos, which you should if you like these, he's both better at this game than I am and much more insightful and entertaining commentary, I think. I'll put a link to his channel in the description as well. If you watch his channel, you know about these tournaments already. But yeah, go ahead and join the group. It's a lot of fun so far. My opponent, who we're still waiting to load in, is a fellow named MGL Agony. Oh, there he is, Agony John 316, and he is playing as Prussia to my Portugal. This was the first of two games we did, and this is also by far the more interesting one, so it's the one I'm going to show you. So now that he's in, let's kind of go over the builds. My build as Portugal is I've brought, of course, 5 lights. The rules were, 5 lights, no art. I've brought my regular general staff, 10 infantry, and 4 cav, all of which have 1 tick of experience, because Portuguese cav are crap, and I figure giving them that extra bit of morale will make them go a bit further. And one of my cazadores also has a pip of experience. My opponent, a little bit more complicated of a build, and I'm going to go over it based off of its flanks that he's in. So I'm going to slow down for a sec. On his left flank, he's got 2 Prussian Fusiliers, 3 Musketeers, and a foot guard. In his center, he's got 1 Fusilier, 2 Musketeers, 2 Hussars, Leutzo's Freikorps, Lancers, and Gen Staff. And on the right, he's got 2 Prussian Fusiliers, 3 Musketeers, and an 8th Light Regiment. So, yeah, that's... I think, though, the way we each deployed has some interesting facets to it. So, I guess to start with, let's just talk about my thoughts when I saw this. I figured, okay, I'm going to see if I can get all of my lights to fight just one of his light groups. That was, when I saw this, that was my first thought. Because we both have excellent lights. Mine's slightly better, but we both have excellent lights. So, I figured, okay, I'll shift to the left here. And this has the extra benefit of being kind of what I like to think of as a probing move. Like, make something like that. I don't know this guy. I don't know how well he plays. So by doing that, I can kind of gauge his response a little bit. And he does something pretty smart. He shifts his line to counter that. He sees what I'm doing and isn't going to let me just, get around on his flank. So he marches this way, threatening instead to get onto my flank. Yeah, that seems smart, right? So for now, I continue just kind of advancing up here, knowing, I have a bunch of excess dudes here. And actually, that's one thing I kind of want to talk about. So yeah, here, shift my angle a little bit, because I'm worried about that. Worried about these guys engaging this section of line before I can do too much. Based off of the way he's deploying. So we kind of continue to do this little dance for a bit. Yeah, I'm gonna fast forward for just a sec. So, we do a bit of maneuver and counter maneuver. And here, the movement he makes here is kind of going to be the defining aspect of this battle. So, gonna pause it for a sec to kind of do the bird's eye view. Here you see he's merged his center and his left, to be his new left on my right. And then he's taken his right here to push up against my left. And he does so in an interesting formation, just forming one line. And he does this while I'm maneuvering over here. I don't see it right away, but instead of just sitting back and skirmishing me, okay, he just attacks on my left in a very haphazard way. I think he might be using target fire. So here I just kind of reorganize my line, extend it out a bit. Probably shouldn't have done that, to be honest. But it works out because he does what he probably shouldn't do and continues to push him up. Again, because I think they're target attacking. So I get some good shots on him as he retreats. And as this is happening, I think, okay, I'm going to bring my lights over here. My thought is either engage these Prussian Fusiliers or get some free shots on his 8th Life Regiment. So here, while this is happening, he's kiting back a bit. And I do what you do when someone kites, and I go after him. Well, I forgot to mention it's raining. I fucked up the hosting settings. I thought I had done the light rain afternoon, but I didn't. Anyway, here. I attack. I decide to do a push in the center. Taking my 5 lights against his 3. And you see, he pushes his line very close to his light. So he gets the first shot. That's okay. And as soon as my guys are in position, they open up as well. And here, he does a good job with a bit of disruption and charges his cav. I think I do this pullback a little bit too early, and you'll see why. So he does his charge, sees they're retreating, and pulls them back before they get in musket range of my infantry. So he just gets some good disruption, basically, for free there. And I try to be like, oh, turn around, shoot the cav in the back. But they're cav, they're fast. I don't really manage to do that. So by now, despite having... Oh, and my men are, look, already pretty tired from running around light infantry. Okay, so here, let's go back. On the left, he just pushes his skirmishers forward. Get some skirmishing, I move up to shoot him, as well as charging my cav. And I get some shots there, and I get my cav into his lights while I push my lights up to renew the skirmishing. And he does his cav charge anew. So for now, I know that he's pretty attentive here. I'm also a little bit closer to my lines, but not so close. I'm going to take a bunch of overflow bullets. So I wait a little bit longer. And this time, I mean, I don't wait till they're like already charging, but this time I managed to do a bunch of damage here. And also, I'm going to have to comment, he's doing the single blob of cav move. Don't do the single blob of cav move. It doesn't work. Do separate targets. And he does manage to rout one of my lights, and he does pull them back to his credit, so... it's not the worst thing, but it could have been a bit better. Oh, and I also extracted these cav that were hunting down his lights. So, yeah. Oh, also here, I tried to get up on his flank a little bit, but he pulled back before I could do anything with it. So, it wasn't that important, really. Now, was it? So, let's get away from slow. So here, he brings his cav away from this engagement to affect this one. I get into square and just on time. But again, he's doing the big blob of cav. Pulls them away wisely while he's engaging with his 8th Life Regiment. And I decide to charge them as well. So we have here, like, you want to have my guys in square? Maybe I need to have your guys in square, right? They managed to get some good shots on them, of course, with their other units. He honestly probably should have just not squared, but I managed to get him to, so... And these guys are supposed to be going back into line, they're not doing it yet. But here, I take my big flanking force and get them moving again, while also pushing up in the center. He notices I don't get like a bunch of free shots on his cav or anything. But one thing you'll see here that he's doing... Okay, first of all, let's talk about a few things. He's retreating all these guys. He shouldn't. He should push harder. And here's why. So, first of all, he's leaving this 8th Life Regiment, one of his expensive units, behind. Second, okay, so I've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 units in here, not counting the general, right, that are relevant to this fight. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, plus 3 cav that are very easy to get back into it, especially like these guys are pretty depleted. I mean, his 8th Light Regiment too a little bit, but, you know, what he should do is stretch his line infantry out a bit more, skirmish with his lights, maybe do a double line thing, you know, where He has his line in range and has his lights in range in front of them, shooting over their heads. Instead, he retreats, and I kind of take advantage of that fact, because if he's keeping these guys back here and leaving his expensive units to fend for themselves, I'm going to exploit that. So I push up, and what I really need to do is also get these guys moving faster. They're moving now, but it would have been nice to have them in place sooner. So I move up here, and now suddenly, like, this guy's exposed. He's going to be taking most of the fire. And he tries to push his musketeers up a bit too much. Or not too much, but like this formation, honestly, if I were smarter, I would have charged these lights. But I do something else that's really... Okay, so here, let's go slow-mo, because several things happen. He does some charges, I do some... So he does a cav charge, in fact, let's pause it even. So he does a cav charge against my line here. I charge his life regiment. He charges my lights. He fixes his mistake of doing the big blob. He even gets into my lights because he overloads my micro a little bit. Meanwhile, by the way, I'm getting these guys actually into a firing position on his Prussian Fusiliers. Put some pressure on this right, even if it's not the focus, but remember that. Alright, so I charge through here, try to hit these musketeers. He does get into my line. I miss a square, but I think so does he. And here, he pulls off this charge, because I do the square. This one gets routed. So he pulls this one off to try to rescue his units here by charging my cav. But I'm okay with that. They get shot up by this infantry on the way there, and I keep... A lot of times, you know, so he's still wreaking havoc, so what I do is I have my general, in a second, come up to try to take care of the situation. And here, so I'm fighting his lights, but his line aren't in position. And so yeah, I do I do a rally. I do the thing you normally don't want to do. I have my my cav charge his cav. While these cav, who are just doing this direction, they have 15 guys left, I have them charge his lights, who are completely unprotected. These guys are in square, and then I pull these cav out. They've saved this line. And this, I mean, is a pretty good matchup for the cav, obviously. And so now, he's redeployed his line. My cav isn't near here, so he can really afford to do this, where he makes one big line with his lights and his line. And here he does something interesting. He does a bayonet charge, which, you know, kudos to you for that. Like, bayonets are pretty cool, right? But let's look at big picture for a second here. Okay, so suddenly I've swept on my left side pretty well. What I need to do, and I don't do well enough, is I need to be aggressive here and wrap around. And my center is doing really well. I probably need to be more aggressive here as well. Meanwhile, he's actually got, you know, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 guys, or he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys over on this side. And that's his chance right now. So I don't think this bayonet charge is really a good move, especially doing a low morale guy. And then he goes for another bayonet charge here, I think? No, he just forms up. This would have been a better unit to charge, maybe. But, like, I'm kind of in shambles. I try to bring these guys to be more relevant, get some flanking fire here. And that kind of works. But let's talk a little bit again about So this game's a game about relative advantages. So he manages to retreat here, and I'm not being nearly aggressive enough. Now here, he's routed one of my 3 units. Basically he made this a section of the battle himself, where he's got 1, 2, 3 units against this one. And these 2 are fighting, like, you know, these 3. And these aren't really in a proper position, though they can get there fast enough. He shouldn't really count on that. But this is his chance to sweep my right flank. And I don't know that he really takes enough advantage of that. So, you see here, he starts retreating. What he really needed to do is, you see these guys are coming up. He needed to maybe stretch out. It's hard to say, because I think at this point I'm winning. And there's a few reasons why. One, he's lost all his cav, as you saw earlier. So that means that I don't have to worry about protecting my lights. And pretty soon, that's going to be relevant. Like, this is his chance. What he needs to do is sweep this flank off the field and get around here before I can redeploy. Like, time is my advantage here. He needs to get aggressive. Instead, I retreat this guy. I know there's no saving this unit. My light that routed came back, I forgot to mention, but that's fine. But this is like, here, he probably should have just kept it a firefight, honestly. And he does some retreat, so now we're both getting time to redeploy our lines. And as much as I should have pushed hard on the left, both of us redeploying our lines is honestly a good thing for me, okay? Like, because the one advantage he had is that my flank here is in shambles and he could wrap around it. These infantry come back. These infantry actually win their first melee, and I just have them go ahead and charge here, because it would take too long to get them deployed, and this is just like a distraction at this point. No sound effects right now. And while it's happening, I take the guys whose job it is to protect my lights and make a new section of my line. As well, I still have, they're depleted, very depleted, and they're Portuguese cav to begin with, but I still have 2 of my cav.
Our men are running, sir.
He doesn't do a great job of protecting his lights to begin with, but I also don't do a great job of going aggressively against them. And I think you can kind of get away with this against Portugal in some ways, because Portuguese cav are such crap. So let's go ahead and do a bit of fast forward for a sec. So my thought here is I'm going to push on the right, because I have now these 5 guys here, versus... And he sees me moving my guys there, so he pushes a little bit on his left. And I try to get my lights set up here. You see here, he's pushing up kind of haphazard. Like, these musketeers get into line before the others. They're not really forming a proper line at all. I think they're target shooting, you know, where you right-click on the unit instead of, like, using fire at will.
Our men are running, sir.
But he does manage to do okay, because these guys are not in the best shape already. But here, see, he tries... I think these bayonet charges really cost him a lot here. And he tries to do a bayonet charge here, as well as charging his general, which shows he's desperate. I get into square, and... So here's the thing, right? Let's look at this right now. Okay, great, he's getting into melee, he's getting these guys into square, but who's taking advantage of it? These guys? No, they're fighting this unit. I mean, they're winning, but this square is wasted. These guys? No, they're fighting my lights here. And, they're getting that one pretty... He's sort of starting to waver, but my general can soon take care of that. And I'm rushing my cav with him all the way back over. Like, even just bringing my general near puts him into just a more steady situation. And here I try to advance some more. And this is a case where some self-criticism here. Okay, look, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, and a path, let's say, unit. Not quite even. And he's got 3 units, or really, basically 2, you know, a unit and 2 half units. I need to push, like, aggressively, like, get right up in his face. But, to be fair, maybe it's not that important, because, you know, the only way I can lose here, I think, is if I make a mistake. So he tries to charge his general at this guy, form into square. That's okay. You have to use your general staff for that. Not ideal, but he's desperate. Get my guy into square. Cool. These guys go into line, lose their ability to square. he does this like bayonet charge here, so I decide I'm going to bring my cav in. My first thought was to go to his general, but he kind of gets him out of a position to do that.
Our men are running, sir.
So I just charge at his musketeers. And now, again, we have one of these situations. This time it's my left flank. My lights are skirmishing here, where he needs to capitalize, but he can't, because he's just got these musketeers who are in a melee fight with my cav out of square. They're still doing okay. He's got these musketeers, and like his life regiment is coming into position. So he needs to move faster, but if he's gonna do that, like, he needs to keep pressure on my center. Because now, by backing these off, he leaves these units completely free. And that's going... So now, let's say he doesn't do that, right? I mean, I could still peel some of them off, but let's just say he keeps them reasonably distracted. Now he's remaneuvered his units after taking some time. Routed my cav there. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4 combat units. Granted, reasonably depleted, but who isn't at this point, right? And I've got this infantry and like potentially these Portuguese cav. So he can sweep my flank again if he keeps the pressure up on my center. But by backing off, you'll kind of see how that plays out. So I go ahead and immediately peel off 2 of these guys. I don't properly, I accidentally did not select this infantry. So little mistake there, but I push up to keep pressure here, realizing the situation. And I bring my lights over to kind of help protect this flank again. Like, his only cav is his general. So these start skirmishing here, and now that these guys are moving up to protect these, and I just continue kind of adding more and more as I know that their flank is secure. And by now, I honestly don't think there's any way he wins this battle. I think it would have been a long shot even at this point, but if he had rolled over this flank, it's, okay, so now I'm using attack, right? I don't think it's always bad. I think you need to be careful how you use it. So here I'm using it to keep these guys skirmished, right? So he can't really... So he kites away. But that's not a solution to this problem, okay? Like... I can just kind of keep doing this for quite a while. And here I keep these guys doing their, relying on fire at will. And I bring this light infantry over to be a part of this battle. But now I can kind of just... Alright, so I bring these cav over, thinking maybe I can get a shot at his gen at some point. Bring my infantry up. Keep my lights as a fairly solid block. I really need to be more aggressive here, honestly. He starts trying to push. He sees that this unit is shaken, the one that came back. So that's a smart move, but I think it's too late to do some sort of aggressive move. So what I, do is I just decide to bring all these... I do shoot some of my guys in the back, which I have to say he's done a whole bunch of this time. But
one of our units has
that's the last of their ammunition, and I just form a line here. Finally doing the aggression I need to do where I've got the numbers advantage. And I just bring my general back to shore it up. Push these lights up to kind of finish off his center here. Honestly, as soon as... I should have used my cav more aggressively here. And here, I just have the numbers advantage. Route those guys. The musketeers. I go ahead and try a bayonet charge, because these are the guys whose ammo is depleted. And I just kind of pull back here to form a flanking, protection. He's just going to try to charge. So I form square. Have my cav charge his general.
We have killed their general,
get the kill pretty quick.
break.
Which is great, while my lights get into position to shoot at these musketeers. And over here, this flank is wrapped up, and I think if it wasn't at this point he sent to GG, it was pretty close. So I'm just fast forward through it. Now this tournament is a best 2 of 3, as I mentioned. I'm not gonna show you the other match, it wasn't quite so interesting. And here I just do the bayonet charges on his right, do a bayonet
Glorious
charges
victory,
here.
sir, is soon to be
I
yours.
like bayonet charges and wish they were a little bit more useful in this game. But very good game to Agony John 316.